Hello there, sports gamers. Welcome on back into the channel. I'm Brandon Satterwhite. This week, SDS finally unveiled the additions coming to franchise mode and Road to the Show in MLB The Show 24. Finally, we're just a week away from the early access launch. We're finally hearing what's going to happen in these offline modes, and we got a lot to go over here. We've got new settings, we've got logic improvements, we've got new gameplay features, and of course, the biggest news, female ball players are finally going to be in Road to the Show. A lot to go over here, so let's get into it.
Sports Gamers Online is the #1 source for the sports gamer.
All right, so let's start with the franchise news first. So there were basically 5 new things coming to franchise mode. We'll start with the biggest one first, and that is the custom game entry conditions. Now, if you've played franchise mode for the past few years, you know that there's a feature in it called critical situations. You can toggle that on and off, and if you have it on, then as you're simming throughout your season, you'll get prompts where you'll be showed what the situation is, and you'll be asked if you want to hop in or not. So it could be like, you've got a runner on second, you're down a run in the bottom of the 9th, no outs, see if you can walk it off. Or your starter has a shutout going into the 9th inning, hop in and finish the shutout, stuff like that. Well, now you can sort of tailor those prompts and those settings a little bit here with this new feature. So you can slide your situation importance slider up or down. And so this will tell you how important you want the situation to be, how difficult, I guess you could say, you want the situation to be, when you want to prompt you, the earliest you want it to prompt you. If you want to enter player highlight moments, so those are like a player has 2 home runs already, see if you can make it 3, or someone's a triple away from the cycle, or stuff like that. And then you can also set your earliest inning there. And then when you set all these, it'll give you rough estimates of how many games you'll be playing and how many games will be simmed throughout an entire season. So I think that's really cool. Anything to sort of change up how often you're hopping into games and simming games and stuff like that. Anything to give the player more control over something like that, I am always in favor of. So next up, last year in MLB The Show 23, of course, they added the new prospect generation tool and the new scouting and draft features. Well, they've improved some of the logic for the undrafted and the unsigned players. So if you remember from last year, players that went undrafted or players that got drafted but did not sign with teams could re-enter the draft pool the next year as basically college players. So now what will happen is those players that do go back into the draft pool, they will basically go to college in a way. They will be better when they show up the next time. They'll progress during that time from one draft to the next, so they'll be more likely to be picked. Also, there's improved logic for injured players, so if a player has very high injury concerns, you'll be more likely to see them sort of fall down the draft board. They've also added the prospect promotion incentives. So this is a rule that was implemented a few years ago, where you had a bunch of MLB teams that were keeping their prospects in the minors for like the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season instead of promoting them in order to manipulate their service time to basically get an extra year of service time out of them. Now you have these incentives where if you have a prospect on your opening day roster and you keep them there the whole season, and if they either win Rookie of the Year or finish top 3 in Cy Young or MVP voting before they hit arbitration, your team will be compensated with additional draft picks. And so that logic has now been added into franchise mode, and also there's this new menu screen that shows the players that would be eligible to get your team those incentives and those benefits. Next up, and this is one I've been wanting for a long time. I was so happy when they showed this. There is finally an awards tab on the player card in franchise mode that shows all of the different awards a player has won throughout their entire career, even awards from before this season. So you've got Christian Yelich on there, and he's got all of the awards he's won. He's got his All-Star appearances, his MVP, his Silver Sluggers, all of them. So that is a very big one. That's one that I'm going to love to see in MLB The Show franchise mode, especially when I'm doing those long rebuilds where I've got like Acuna or Judge or someone like that that's winning a ton of awards, and I want to be able to go back and see, okay, what all did they win while I was in control, you know? So I love that. That is something I'm very excited to see in the game. And lastly, this is a small addition, but you will now be able to load the live roster with injuries. So in the past, the live roster that MLB The Show put out always basically wiped away pre-existing injuries when you started a new franchise. Now you'll be able to keep the pre-existing injuries if you want to. Now moving over to Road to the Show, and of course the big news for the mode this year is that female ball players will now be available in the mode, and that is sort of the big selling point for the mode this year, is that finally you will be able to create a female ball player if you want to. This is very good for representation and good for, you know, if there are women out there that love baseball, that love the game, that love MLB The Show, and now they're able to create themselves in Road to the Show and play as themselves, which I think is awesome. And you've got, you know, Sarah Random now instead of Joe Random here. And also, if you do play as a woman, then there will be basically a unique story that you go through, shows you becoming the first woman to play in Major League Baseball. And so you'll have special cutscenes, you'll have unique dialogue, unique commentary, and all of that. So a lot of work went into, you know, making this the first year that women are in the game very special. They also talked about how there's going to be your friend, so you'll have a friend named Mia that is also going through the same thing that you are, who is also trying to become the first woman to play in Major League Baseball. And so basically throughout your time in the minors, you'll both be going through the minors at the same time, and you'll basically end up seeing if you make it to the majors first or if she does. And so you'll be having a bunch of different conversations with her back and forth. The other big thing that was added is this MLB Draft Combine. So a few years ago, we used to have the Bowman Scout Day and then the Topps Showcase game. So you'd run through some drills in the Scout Day, and then you'd play a couple of prospect games, and then that would determine your draft stock. That's coming back in the form of the MLB Draft Combine. And in the Combine here, you'll have day one, which is the Showcase. So I'm thinking this is something where you run through some drills. They said it wasn't an actual game, so I'm figuring some sort of drill similar to what we saw in the old Bowman Scout Day. And then you'll play 3 games, and that will basically help determine your draft stock. And here you'll be able to watch your draft stock go up and down over the course of the Combine. And you'll also get to view in real time your actual scouting report as well as your MLB comparison. I really like that. I always like it when they give me a comparison to an actual player. And the other main thing coming to Road to the Show is new fielding situations. So in the past, there's been a setting where when you're making a throw, like you'll have like the right stick over here and you'll have to move the right stick until the glove comes over here into the middle, and then you'll have to press like the R2 button to actually make the throw. So there are those still, but now there's also ones where like you have to hit these buttons in the right order in a certain amount of time to make the throw. They also showed one where you have to do the same thing with moving the glove, but it's to make a tag at home plate when you're the catcher. There's also ones for like diving for ground balls just out of reach or jumping up to rob a home run. So I like that. I've said that I wanted to see them do something to the on-the-field gameplay to make it a little more dynamic, make it a little more engaging, change it up a little bit. And I was trying to figure out how they would do that, because that seems really difficult to, you know, make the on-field gameplay feel, you know, just completely different. I don't think this makes it completely different, but it definitely will make it a little bit more engaging in my eyes. They also talked about some presentation stuff. So they've got the new minor league baseball logo up here, and they've got a few different presentation themes again this year. So you've got the new scoreboards and everything. They've got a couple of you know, these different graphics that they showed and all that. So all that, you know, changes every year, so it's always nice to see how that's looking every year. And it'll bring up some more exterior shots of stadiums. They started adding that last year, and now they have even more. So you've got Oracle Park here now, and they showed a few others as well. One other thing they did talk about with Road to the Show is whether you play as a man or a woman, there are going to be more of these little text conversations. We'll see if they, if there's any sort of player choice or anything in them. Currently, there really isn't, but we'll see if they've added any of that in once we actually get our hands on the game. But it'll be interesting to see, if those are actually worthwhile or if they're kind of like how they are now, where you kind of just skip through them at this point. But it is nice that they're trying to add that and flesh that out a little bit. I am happy to see them at least putting some effort towards that. So that's going to about wrap things up here for this video, y'all. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave it a like and let me know down in the comments. What do you think about this? Do you like these improvements? Do you think it's enough? Were you hoping for more? Were you hoping for something else? Let me know down in the comments there and we'll take a look at those. But until then, guys, if you enjoyed the video, leave it a like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos. There's going to be a lot of MLB The Show content coming up with the last little bit of news coming out, and then with the release, I'll be doing the review again this year, and then we'll have a ton of content coming out even after that. So make sure for all your sports gaming news and updates, you stay tuned to Sports Gamers Online. I'm Brandon Satterwhite with SGO. Thank you for watching.